If you're looking to learn the latest skills in no code and AI, you have to check out nocodealliance.org. No matter if you're just starting out or if you're a seasoned pro and looking to specialize even further, we have courses at all levels and in all different tools. And we're adding new instructors on a monthly basis. So go to nocodealliance.org, create your free portfolio, check out some of our courses, even apply to jobs while you're there. And then for employers looking to tap into the greatest AI and no code talent, you could post a job there for free at nocodealliance.org. Immediately access over 2,000 of the world's best talents. And if that's not enough, we have a feature where you could boost your job to immediately access 5,000 more no code and AI devs throughout curated networks that we've put together with some of the best developers there. So go to nocodealliance.org to get started, and I hope to see you there. You're listening to This Week in No Code plus AI, with weekly episodes sharing the latest advancements of AI, plus exclusive interviews with founders using these tools. So without any further ado, let's get started. Welcome to This Week in No Code plus AI. I'm your host, JJ Englert. Here with my co-host, David Pal, and we have another fantastic interview for you this week in No Code. We are interviewing David Bressler from the Formula Bot, a no-code startup that has surpassed over 950,000 users over the last 2 years. And he's a first-time builder, first-time entrepreneur too, I think.
On paternity leave.
On paternity leave with a full-time job. Every check along the way, he's checked, and we have that full interview for you.
Extra hard mode.
Extra hard mode. It's a good place to be, David.
Yeah. I do think that it will get into it. Sometimes when your back is against the wall, you think the most clearly. You have to be, you're not so clever, you're just doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, let's see. We're going to go straight to the interview, and let's hear more, and let's bring David to the stage.
Well, what do you get when you have a no-code savant and a no-code influencer and a successful no-code entrepreneur? Well, let's ask Formula Bot. Now, well, we have the CEO and founder, David Bressler, on with us today from Formula Bot. Very excited to have you today. I'd go out and say like top 2, 3 most successful no-code apps you've ever seen. I don't know what the numbers are.
How many no-code apps do you know about?
Like 10.
That have made it to this success. I don't know.
It's been so cool to watch. But before we talk about Formula Bot, let's talk about you.
Yeah, let's do it.
So tell us a little bit about kind of your journey up to this.
Yeah, I've been I graduated college 2011, and really for 12 plus years, went back and forth working on corporate America side, agency side, big companies, small companies, consulting, all around the marketing analytics space. And I was on paternity leave 2 years ago. And at that time, AI was like on the cusp of something big. This was in July 2022. ChatGPT didn't come around until I think November of that year. And so I was on paternity leave. I always wanted to run my own business. I would never consider myself a software developer or engineer. I was always.
Did you go to school for business or?
I went to school for general business with a specialization in marketing and a minor in sport business management, which is basically kind of BS. And so like my entire career, the only kind of coding I was used to was coding mostly in like SQL, where it's all like data architecture. That was really it. So I was on maternity leave. I was like, all right, I got 6 weeks to be an entrepreneur. What am I going to do? I've been doing
like all people on paternity leave. You're like, all right, I'm going to be starting a new business now.
Yeah. Well, like second day the baby came out, I was like, I got to start a business. I guess diapers are not
your target bill is influencing.
And I had been in the consulting service space for 12, 13 years. And like, when you start having kids, the space is exhausting, especially in digital marketing. Paid ads are always on, the internet's always on. And so I wanted to get out of the consulting business and I wanted to build something. And so AI was getting big. but not big to the point where it was ChatGPT. And so
Yeah, at that moment, AI was like in the indie hacker world. Like on Twitter, people were talking about Chat GPT 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And like OpenAI had easy to use APIs. Cause I remember also around the same time you were starting, I was also looking at like Socal AI, like Salesforce SQL
Yeah.
language code generator things.
So if it wasn't for then Twitter, now X, like I probably would not have ever discovered Bubble, and I would not know about as much as I know today about the AI space.
Mhm.
And so the algorithm really worked in my favor because it started to learn like, hey, this guy is getting into entrepreneurship and AI. Let's start showing him relevant content.
Mhm.
So I found out about OpenAI API through X. I found out about Bubble through X, again, at that time, Twitter. And at that time, my entire feed was a lot of like if you remember, like the OpenAI playground, where it's like someone types something and then the rest of it is like green highlight.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, oh my God, this is AI. This is so cool.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then, I started learning about OpenAI, started playing in the playground, started learning about APIs, having worked in the MarTech space for a while, like I like when I was pitching to clients and all the software to use and stuff, I would always say API, but I never actually knew what it meant. I never actually knew like how to set it up. And so, I got exposure to that. And in probably a week, I built an MVP in Bubble. I'd never used it before. I didn't go
Impressive.
through any documentation. I basically watched JJ's videos of like
Just
how to set up an API. And it was really just like YouTube University, and made an MVP in like a week. It was to the point, I compare it to like the Hunger Games, where it was like a free for all. Like I didn't know how to set up user level controls. I didn't know how to set up API limits. There was no sign on. I just wanted to build something.
Mhm.
So I built it. I shared it on Reddit, shared it on the Excel subreddit, because that's the one that makes the most sense at that time. It was literally just like an input box, output box. Hey, write what you're trying to do and we'll convert it to an Excel formula for you. That was it. But at that time, there was no Chat GPT. No one knew about AI. And so it became one of the sites that were illegal to know. Legal to know.
don't tell your boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, I couldn't stand this for the longest time. But it went viral or as viral as something can get in the Excel subreddit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then someone told me to post it in the Internet is Beautiful subreddit. And then that subreddit is like a breeding ground for AI influencers, or just influencers in general. And so the next day, I got a call from a guy I work with and was like, hey, I just saw your little tool being talked about from an influencer that had like 10 million followers on TikTok. So first thing I did was download TikTok. You're like,
Wow.
tickle. I was like, oh my God, that's my tool. And then I was like, oh my God, hold on a second. Like AI API, there's a cost to that.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it went viral, and I blew through like $5,000 in like 2 weeks in OpenAI credits. And like at that time, it was very scary because I'm like, oh my God, I got to shut this thing down. Or I learned how to build in Bubble, and I build limits. I build I build plans. I build all this stuff. So it took me, a couple months or so and a lot of money, but it was also the best thing for it, because even though I spent a lot, it continued to go viral, because it really was one of those sites that became illegal to know, because you can literally just bang this thing against the wall. I had web scrapers and all that going up against the site. And so, yeah, it worked out well. And so from July to August, it was just like a Hunger Games free for all. And then August did a product hunt launch, and it was the first day I made $1 on the internet.
And this is still like, this is all happening so fast. Like, this is just a couple months. You didn't know about AI. You didn't know about APIs. You didn't know about Bubble. No one else knew about any of
You
those
had a
things
new baby.
either. Yeah, you were dealing with a newborn.
Literally just had a new baby.
And ChatGPT was still not out.
So I made my first dollar with an AI wrapper before a month before ChatGPT came out.
And
Wow. And then, so now, okay, tell us about that moment when ChatGPT arrived.
At first I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like,
It had
so
to be kind of feel like a little threatening, at least. Like, oh, well, now people could just type in this box.
it was. And, if someone were to ask me, like, at that time, like, why would I use this tool versus ChatGPT? A lot of it, my messaging to them was like around customization, right? Like,
Yeah.
instead of writing this long prompt about how you want Spanish language, or if you prefer this kind of syntax, you don't have to write that out every single time. You just click this button and here you go. And then I also expanded it into, instead of being just a web application, it's also an extension or an add-on within Excel and Google Sheets. So
nice.
again, convenience side of things, that was the value prop.
Did you build that in
And
no code as well, or did you have to use traditional code for
that
that?
was of the entire Formula Bot tech, that is the only part that is coded.
Bubble for the rest of it?
Yep. Still in Bubble
Even though
for,
you have
I would
more
say
than 900?
probably 90% of it. Like, we can get to it later if you want, but I do have integrations with like N8N workflows, and I store all the data in AWS. So there is some behind the scenes,
Yeah,
but the entire web application is in Bubble.
and that's with more than 900,000 users.
Yep. 950. I think I looked at it yesterday, like 952,000.
And that's, well, you can start with 950,000. That grew over the last couple of years. So ChatGPT comes out.
Yeah.
Now I'd imagine like you go through this quick moment of, oh crap, people might try to use this. But now everyone has caught on to AI tools being part of their
Not
workforce.
everyone. I think people are still
Okay,
catching on,
there's still
David. The
okay,
first wave, maybe.
yeah, the not earliest adopters, but the next wave of next tranche of people go,
There you go.
oh, wow, AI is great. I can do stuff with it. Let me go find AI tools.
Yep.
What was that moment like? So now you're like, okay, great. We thought we were viral. Now we're like, you must have really started getting a lot of serious users. So you kind of had some expectations.
So when it was illegal to know, that was the point where ChatGPT wasn't around. Went super viral then.
Well, what,
And
like
then
viral, like you like 10,000 users, new users a day, or like what are you talking about in that way?
like 5 to 10,000 new users a day.
Okay, cool.
The problem with going viral is there's no limitations in the geography. And so you do get a lot of
Yeah.
people who are never going to subscribe to it,
Yep.
and we're just the sunk cost. But at the same time, like, user to user, it's great to learn how people are using the application. Can't guardrail virality. And then after ChatGPT, it was still going viral because everyone at that point was talking about AI.
Mm-hmm.
So the positioning around people talking about it, influencers talking about it, it went from like, hey, check out this one app, to, hey, I'm now an AI influencer. Here's top 5 apps that you should know. And it was more about like being a part of it. And so I rode that wave, and I think the wave pretty much ended from, I would say ChatGPT was October 2022. The wave ended around like April, May of the following year, where it's like, okay, had enough of AI, let's settle down a little bit.
Yeah.
And so you can
Yeah.
see that like in Google Trends, which I like to use, to basically look at like keyword popularity. You can see it there, but you can also see it in my stats. And at that point, everyone's talking about it's great, but then I was like, in the back of my mind, I know I need to build something more than just a add-on to Excel and Google Sheets that's there for convenience. And so for, another 6 months, I worked my full-time job while trying to build something that wasn't just open AI wrapper that you can't just do within ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people would unsubscribe, I asked why. And one of the most popular reasons was ChatGPT is free. And
Mm-hmm.
I always hoped in the back of my mind they'd start charging, but it's still free.
Yeah.
And I think I saw like only 20% of, which is pretty high, 20% of ChatGPT users pay for it. And so I worked on the product, and I like to think that today it's no longer just an open AI wrapper, and there's a lot of things that you can do in Formulabot that you cannot do in ChatGPT.
Can you talk a little bit about like the team size, if any, throughout this journey? Massive growth, virality. You just had a baby. You're working full time. Is it just you this whole time? Did you add on a developer too? Like, talk about that growth in team.
Not just the fake people on Upwork who claim to have built
Our entire
that
product.
was real. That happened to me. There were some guys who claimed to had worked on Formulabot because it became kind of this shining star of bubble AI apps. And so a lot of people said that they had built it, but in fact worked with, today I work with mostly 2 developers, 3 developers, all located in India. The agency is called Zeroic. When I started working with them, January of 2023,
Okay.
where it wasn't out of necessity to continue to build. It was out of necessity to build things that I just don't have the time to build, and I want to learn how to do it.
Mm.
And so, especially with building things early on, like oftentimes it took more time to learn how to do something than
And you're
to
probably
actually.
not doing it the right way.
And I wasn't doing it the right way. I wasn't
Yeah.
building things in a more scalable manner.
What you needed at your velocity and growth.
Yeah. And so I hired them, in which at that point it was just one developer dedicating probably 20 hours a week.
So this was
to
your first
augment
hire,
to augment
2023.
me, and I was basically it was making decent cash flow, but I was also working my full-time job, so I was making pretty good money, and so I had the ability to hire resources. Or there is
So
some
that's like 6 months into this though. Like you rode the first 6 months by yourself, new baby, full time by yourself.
I would say 90% by myself. There were a couple of Upworkers that I
Yeah.
found that helped me out with like some small projects, like language translations and stuff like that.
Sure.
But most of it was just myself. And
Wow.
now,
That's tough.
well, probably for the past year, in terms of like what the product is today, I would say that's now down to maybe 60%, and the 40% is the rest of the team from the Zeroic agency.
Cool. That's incredible. So just developers, no one else?
No one else, at least not right now. I was actually just talking with the team a few minutes ago, kind of setting the stage for what next year looks like, in which, you know, business for me, the 2024 versus 2023 was actually was pretty flat, which for like an AI company, you're like that most people would be like, that's horrible as being flat. But
You
you
weathered
know,
the
a lot of the
storm. Yeah.
virality was in 2023,
Yeah.
where there was a lot of organic growth. And this past year, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, like I've been trying to build a product that isn't free anywhere else. It's no longer an OpenAI wrapper. There's a lot of bells and whistles. And so this past year, 90% of my time has been focused on the product, working in Bubble. And I told them, I'm like, look, the product's in a great spot now. Like next year, I want to get down to maybe 25% of my time working on the product.
Yeah.
Leave the rest of it to you guys to try to build more of like an enterprise level solution, which building more of an enterprise level solution in no code, one, that's just crazy to think about.
Mm.
But 2, like it's going to require more outbound work. So much of the traffic has been inbound. And so it'll be a drastic shift in how it's marketed, because I can no longer ride that wave of AI because it just continues to kind of wean down. But next year, a lot of my time will be focused on marketing.
Yeah.
I've seen your Twitter game step up for sure.
I have, I was actually telling someone recently, like, I don't know, like I like tweeting. I like sharing things that I'm building. I like talking about tech and startups and growth hacks and all that stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, I know I'm not talking to who my actual ICP is.
Mhm.
Like I should be, and I actually just signed up for it like an hour ago. I should be in the Facebook data analytics, Google Analytics groups that are, 250,000 reach, and engaging in conversations there, as opposed to
Credits on the place.
tweeting
Yeah.
about like, hey, here's how I grew my SaaS to $950,000 by getting lucky and being very early on in the AI space.
950,000 users.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Not
just,
customers. If it was customers, man,
yeah.
you'd be sitting
But-
pretty on a beach. You would be
But
on this
still,
podcast
it's
right now.
crazy that you got to that many users without a marketing team. also without you focusing on marketing 100%. Like, what part of this do you think it's like luck, like right place, right time? I think luck is involved in everything, but obviously it's not everything. Where do you stand on that?
If I wasn't I'll say first mover, if I didn't have mover's advantage in the data, AI, analytics space and being synonymous as the Excel AI tool,
Hmm.
I would still be working a full-time job.
Yeah.
If
Luck
you had
has,
just built ChatGPT, like just a text to text anything, it probably wouldn't have been what it is.
no. I
Yeah,
mean,
the idea that you went text to formula
yeah,
and it piggybacked Excel, a very popular thing, very passionate group, was incredible.
a big part of it is like the generic name that it used to have, where it used to be called literally excelformulabot.com.
Yeah.
And I think that that really resonated with people because it's just
Good
so
search traffic,
simple.
I assume.
And it's just like Excel bot, like this is what I
That's
want.
yeah,
And
clear.
when I see the company name, I immediately know what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And
And maybe
so
you even search for that without knowing the company name.
that's a big part of it. That's
Yeah.
a big part of it. And a lot of my traffic is organic search where I look at the keywords and I rank number one for Excel formula generator.
Yeah.
I also own the domain Excel formula generator. I
Yeah.
don't know.
What's that
That's where you're
monthly
at.
search traffic?
Huh? What was that?
What's the monthly search traffic for that keyword?
For that keyword, maybe I think it's like 5,000 US searches.
Okay.
It is my number one non-branded search term, followed
Okay.
by Excel AI, AI analytics tools up there as well.
Yeah.
I've been building out a lot of free tools, which the free tools now make up probably 40% of traffic. So Excel formula generator, SQL generator. These are
Mm.
all very basic tools. It's just a, input box, output box, but they're
Yeah.
great lead gen tools to show users what the product actually looks like.
As the number one ranking at that keyword, how much of that traffic can you expect? Like 30%, 20%, something like that?
The conversion rate, the pages are so user friendly, and you can it's built in bubbles, so you can they're very much like utility based pages, and so you can learn about, like, for example, like I have a page that explains the VLOOKUP function, where it's like
Hmm.
this is what it means, this is how it's done in practice. Here's some examples,
Hmm.
but here's also a generator for you
Hmm.
where even down to the placeholder, it's all programmatic, built out in Bubble using the database. It's all programmatic, where if I get to that VLOOKUP page, it shows me example in the placeholder where I'm going to input my information to generate a formula. So it's very personalized, very dynamic. So my conversion rates on my free sign up pages is about 30%. So 1 in 3 people who visit the
Wow.
site are actually signing up. And
And
then
what
after that,
about,
obviously a big drop off in terms of subscription rate, typically around 1 or
sure,
2%.
sure. What about ranking number one for that keyword out of that 5,000 monthly search traffic? How much might you get of that? Like the 20 to 30% clicking to your number one result?
About 50%. 50%. So
50%.
I actually
Incredible.
just shared on X a couple of days ago. For about a year, I was in the second spot.
Hmm.
And then I've been focused a lot on SEO recently. And so I moved from the second spot to the first spot, and conversion rate basically click-through rate basically doubles from the second spot to the first
Wow.
spot.
That's huge. I mean, you can't undervalue that.
Yeah.
Getting the number one spot, even a 5,000, monthly search volume at a 50% convert. Yeah, that's click through rate. That's awesome.
So going back real quick, because I do think it's noteworthy. So we were talking earlier about like a generic name, right? Like the name Excel Formula Bot. There was a company that literally the same week, Y Combinator backed, launched basically the exact same tool, an
Mm.
Excel formula generator. It had an add-on. So they were ahead of me in terms of they had more than just a web app. They also had the add-ons as well. But they made it known to the world. They broadcasted it literally the exact same week as myself. Y Combinator backed. The company was called Tertio. They recently pivoted to something else around PowerPoint AI automation. One went viral. The other one pivoted. Same product. And so much of it goes back to like, one, having a pretty generic name, because even if you heard about Tertia, you see that it's an AI Excel tool. Even myself, I learned a lot about this company, especially a couple of years ago. Even I forgot the name, but you know what I'm going to do on Google? I'm going to go to Google and search for AI Excel tool, AI Excel bot. And there I am.
It is super valuable. Like my last company, we were a rideshare advertising company. We put screens on top of Ubers. Our company name was Ads on Top. So when people search for ads on top of Ubers, we would appear.
There's a guy on X that I follow. He owns the domain bankstatementconverter.com, and I'm pretty sure he's clearing 30K every month.
Wow.
And it's not even AI. It's literally just an API call, which it's the same API call I have built into my product, where you upload a PDF and it converts it to an Excel file. But Bank Statement Converter gets a lot more search demand than Excel Formula Generator, and he owns the category as his brand name. And I'm such a huge advocate of that.
Yeah.
It's,
I've learned that early on. I've just seen a lot of creators go very generic on their names that kind of match those high volume search terms and have a lot of success with it. And I've just tried to keep it as simple as possible ever since. Like my latest one is tradebacklinks.com. It's just, that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
So
just call it literally whatever it is, but don't buy the .io, just buy the domain and suck it up.
Yeah. Pay the price. Although I would say that maybe $10 million for a domain is a little expensive, but
sure,
you could buy it. It's like a house it's a nice house for your business.
There you go.
That's really
all right. So you're 2 years into this. You got a small team. You're doing this mostly by yourself. You have over 900,000 users using a no-code AI infrastructure. The monthly costs for you, how are they significant in terms of costs?
Not at all. I mean, I pay Bubble, I don't know, I'm on like the $700 a month. That's my biggest expense.
Yeah.
Couple $100 for email management, another couple $1,000. I guess another thing about couple $1,000 for OpenAI.
OpenAI, yeah, I figured that'd be the biggest one.
Especially 2 months ago when we did some regression testing and we accidentally tested it with the most expensive model. We were testing scalability, and we racked up $100 a day on that. That wasn't fun. I mean, data storage in AWS is pretty minimal. Got a monthly subscription to N8N to automate some of the data integration workflows. But I would say in total, you're looking at maybe $3,000 a month.
It's incredible. And so you're obviously profitable at that level.
Yep.
Cool. So you're essentially a one-person, bootstrapped, profitable company. You can grow, but like, where do you want to go? Like, you probably have been contacted by investors, incubators, all that kind of stuff. Like, do you want to go that route? Do you want to keep doing what you're doing? Like, where do you want to go as the founder? What makes sense for you?
I ask myself that question every day. You know, if I wasn't in my 30s, mid 30s, let's say I was in my 20s, I would probably go VC backed and try to grow this company to what I envision. And I still want to do that. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit harder doing that bootstrap. But, you know, I've got a wife, 2 kids. I worked in a pretty high stress environment, working in an agency for an industry that never sleeps. And, you know, the past year, it was a year in September. The past year has been the best year of my life. Just being able to spend as much time I can with my wife and kids. And, you know, the only stakeholder I have is myself. And so it's been great. And, you know, it's nice also just not having to worry about a payroll every single month. That can be quite a stressor for a startup.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for this next year, I'm going to try to build what I see as the big picture. And there might be a point where maybe I get like, you know, an angel for maybe a low amount, nothing too serious, just do one round if I feel like I can't build what I want to build. But for right now, I'm pretty patient and I'm just going to kind of keep on keeping on.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean,
you don't want to not take advantage of the moment that you have. You know, like you're making money, you have there's always stress as a business owner, but lower stress. You
Yeah.
don't really account for too many mouths to feed. So it's just like it's on you. It's a really good place to be. You
Yeah.
know, and in your shoes, you could probably say, well, I could do bigger and better. And then say you did do bigger and better and you raised all that money. And a year later, you'd be like, shit, I wish I would have just stayed where I was, kind of thing, you
Yeah.
know?
And when I was at the Bubble conference, there were a few folks out there that are building their startups in Bubble and are VC backed. And I had very similar conversations to the conversation we're having now. And I think it was maybe three different people, three different startups. And they all said they're like, be bootstrapped as long as you can.
Yeah.
And those conversations definitely go a long way. I talked to a guy just a couple of days ago who's been building something in the same space backed by Y Combinator, and he's not as profitable, but it's a tremendous stress on him because every week, every month, there's folks knocking on his door asking what the finances are looking like, what's the outlook for the next couple of months. And, I'm worried about, what my kid's going to eat for dinner because he doesn't want to eat fish sticks.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I feel that. It's a real thing. I've lived through the angel life and I've lived through the bootstrapper life. And, you know, David and I kind of differ a little bit. David, what's your opinion on this? Because I really respect your opinion as well.
I think VC makes sense for the right kind of business when you need to build a product and it's going to take you a year to get out the gate and you can't do it on your own. But I think being bootstrapped gives you control over your outcome and gives you a lot more endpoints. Like you can decide, hey, I'm going to sell this business for a few $1 million tomorrow. That would have been a total failure. You'd be blocked by the VCs. You couldn't do it, right? You can't go hit a base hit. You have to return their fund. And being bootstrapped gives you a lot more control over what you do and how you do it. There are times when VC makes sense. Highly competitive markets, you need to outspend, you need really lots of support, or you need marketing or whatever you need. If you can't, then maybe you shouldn't. Although I do think that for most people, having like an activation energy round, that's what I've been kind of coining it as, like a little angel round, a couple $100,000 to help. Like, if you can't afford to do it, you don't have a business yet, and you're taking a bet, finding some friends and family to do it, where they're happy with a 4x return or a 3x return in a few years, or really they don't care about the return. They just want to support you in doing this. That is also a good output. Yeah, and if I do decide to go down the venture route, like I would do something kind of small. There's a lot of, especially in Orlando, like Orlando is not San Francisco. They're not expecting a 100x return. So there are a lot of groups for angel investing opportunities in which I am trying to do a better job at getting out there in the local markets, networking and all that. And so you do bring up a good point. Like, would I be good with, selling the company for $5-10 million? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go build something else, but in between, I'm gonna go to Hawaii and just chill for a
Yeah.
little bit. That can't be said for, a company that's already VC backed. And so that is also something that I think about often. Like I got a pretty low cost of living. Like, I don't live in a mansion. I live in a 3-2. We
Mhm.
live a good life. We pride
Yeah.
ourselves on taking a bunch of vacations a year. We love the intangibles. We don't have a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
but that kind of money would definitely change my life and my
Sure.
family's.
No doubt. It's nothing to sleep on, but you're still building it. You're still
Yeah.
building that wealth and value, just maybe at a different rate, but maybe
Yeah.
a more sustainable rate as well.
Yeah, different rate. I'm not
What
in a
else
rush.
would you be doing? Like, it's not like
Do
you're
it.
ready to retire.
That's ultimately the thing that I go back to. Like, I considered selling? Sure. Like, I'd be
Sure.
crazy to
That
sell
number's tempting, I'm
if
sure.
I didn't. I
Yeah.
actually had it on acquire. I had it listed about a year and a half ago. It was right before I decided to leave my job. I took basically, when I was working full-time job, two kids, wife, two
There
full-time
was a
job.
lot going on.
wasn't working out. I wasn't in a good place mentally, and how I feel physically not working out very much dictates my outcome of how I feel mentally.
Yeah, of course.
And so I told my boss, I was like, hey, I need to take a couple weeks off. I just need to like think through next steps here. And at that point, I was like, I didn't have a vision. It
Mhm.
was still just like this basic Excel generator tool. I had no vision.
Yeah,
And
it
I,
happened quick,
and I,
like, you
and I
didn't really
grew up
start
farther.
with this in mind, I
Yeah.
think.
The AI space goes so fast. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't keep up. I don't know what's out there. I'm not,
You probably felt overwhelmed, like, imposter at times.
yes, 100% felt like an imposter.
Yeah.
And part of it is like, it's the AI space. It goes 1,000. It's like Interstellar, right? Where it's like the
Mhm.
guys are on this planet, and every minute on Earth is like 7 years. It's kind of like that in
Mhm.
the AI space. And so I listed on Acquire. I was like, I'll just be done with it. I'll cash out for, at that time, like $800,000. I got a few bids for a little bit lower. And then I was just like, I just need to think about this.
Mhm.
And I literally took 2 weeks off and just focused on like what this can look like. And instead of selling it, I took it off of Acquire and I quit my job.
Which also
Um,
would have been an awesome outcome,
yeah,
right?
that
Like,
way
had you
you
done
sell
the
for
opposite.
600 still would have been insane. Taking a step back though, like, your first time builder is able to scale a technology company to 900,000 users in 2 years with very little infrastructure cost, knowledge, etc., because of a no-code platform. Like, that in itself is a major win for entrepreneurs looking to get started with technology. Like, think about scaling 900,000 users using traditional code. Like, you would have battled a lot of outages, a lot of things that, like, we as no coders don't have to worry about, luckily.
Yeah. Like, man, when it comes to, especially like a year ago, like when it comes to like scalability, like I didn't know anything. Like my design architecture was not built in that manner. And, it's another reason as to why I hired an agency because they are subject matter experts in the space.
Yeah,
Thankfully, they didn't have experience working with a company of this scale,
yeah.
especially in AI, because
Not many
at that
do.
point, no one did.
Yeah.
So, it was a learning experience for all of us, but they were definitely the ones that pushed along faster, especially when I was working a full-time job.
It's a great story. Pat yourself on the back because
I appreciate it. Thank you.
there's there's a lot of ways you could have given up. I mean, the very fact that you had a kid on paternity leave and you're like, okay, I got some time to build something. That
Let
shows
me
you're an
go take all
entrepreneur.
of that time.
That shows that like you're a go getter in itself. Many people would just say, I'm on paternity leave. I'm just gonna, and then
Yeah.
I'll meet you in my full time job afterwards. But like from the very beginning, you had that drive, and maybe your wife's at times maybe wished you had less of it, but you
I
had
mean,
that drive. You
well,
made it
belt
happen.
year. Yeah.
And it's great. It's given you incredible opportunities because of such and great decisions that you can now make, which is an opportunity in itself. And so there's so many wins, but it happened because of you and your drive and for sticking with it. Having a newborn, working a full-time job, getting virality in over your head, feeling like an imposter. You could have given up a million times and you didn't. So hats off to you.
I really appreciate that. I mean, there were definitely a lot of missteps along the way,
There always are.
especially like with the marriage and 2 kids where like the second that my kids would go to sleep, I would get on the computer as opposed to, spending some quality time with my wife and
Yeah.
neglecting the gym. And that there were a lot of missteps along the way.
Mhm.
And every week I was telling my wife, like, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it.
Yeah.
And at
You're
that,
the 1% where it actually is worth it.
Yeah.
The
it's full
99 other percent, it doesn't actually come true.
that's exactly it. Cause like at that time I would say it in the back of my mind. I'm like, screw it. Hope that this
You
works.
had some good indicators early on.
And
Yeah.
and I've been fortunate it did work out. Cause like,
Yeah.
this the first year has been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. There's at the same time, maybe it's a good time to like PSA in sense of like, it's not always a healthy thing. Like if you have an app that you're spending this much time on and you don't have any users and you have no traction, you're giving up major sacrifices, take a step back, enjoy some free time. Don't give up your mental health, your physical health, because it's a battle. It takes many years and you need to be good for many years to survive. And
Yeah.
if you just burn out, you won't be good.
I would say another lesson learned is like, and I need to do a better job at this, admittedly, it's easier said than done, but don't look at sales like every hour because they'll also, especially
or
like,
leads or
or
Users or
don't
yeah.
look at any
metrics.
data for every single hour because it can also kind
It's
of
never healthy.
dictate
Yeah.
how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And so, there were times where, especially for an app that went viral and has a ton of users, I struggle with, oh my God, there's 5,000 users on the site right now and not one person purchased. And then you're like, oh my God, there's something wrong with the product. And it's like, oh my God, they're using like
Yeah.
everything that you can think of negatively will cross your mind.
Yeah.
So I need to do a better job at it. But one thing I have learned is like, just don't look at it every hour. Like, don't make snap decisions. Just give some things times. Like even now, like I literally like I like changed up my pricing, and I'm doing like price testing right now. But I decided to just basically like triple my prices just to see what happens. And like the day went by and I had no customers, no new customers. It was
Hmm.
the first time ever. Literally
Hmm.
since I launched, there was never one day where I didn't get a new subscriber. And of
Wow.
course, the day I increased
That's a
pricing,
luxury. Wow.
the day I increased pricing, I didn't get a new customer. But I was like, you know what? It's one day,
Yeah.
not enough of a sample size. I gave it a couple days, started buying a $75 plan, $35 plan.
Yeah.
I'm doing price testing right now, but the lesson learned is like, don't make snap decisions and wait till the data is somewhat statistically significant before you start making a
Also,
snap.
seasonality. We were talking about it before the show. Like, this is a hard month. I've always struggled with this month because I like every month I expect a lot. And this month, the people are just quiet. People are enjoying their families and the results aren't there. And so it just like, it makes me always question so much of what I'm doing in December.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a thing where it's a quieter month and like, you got to kind of accept it and take that time in other ways to find healthy things that you can do to, not have it be a constant stressor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't let the business make decisions for you. You should make the decision for the business.
Yep.
Right. Let it drive what the life you want to live. Make that work first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're doing it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like
This
you're
is
doing it.
this is
So
really, really impressive. Yeah. I'm excited to keep following along. And
yeah.
are you going to celebrate the millionth user?
I haven't given it any thought. Maybe I'll
The
give them
two
like
comma, the three
I'll
comma
tell you
club, two
what,
comma club.
you should keep Bubble updated because there's not many apps that they can celebrate 1 million users with publicly. So get onto that while you can. They'll probably push it with you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like for users that want to get involved, that want to try your product, how do they learn more about you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for one, my DMs on X are always open. I'm on X more than I should be, and I'm talking to people that aren't my target audience, but I enjoy it. I get to meet people like JJ and David and learn from others. And so you can find me on X, Bressler Tweets. My handle is still tweets. I'm pretty sure Elon Musk doesn't like that. I'm pretty sure I'm shadow banned because it still says tweets in my handle, but I'm not changing it.
Yeah.
You can find me there or visit formulabot.com. Like I mentioned, the product today is not what it used to be. Today, it's more of a AI data analytics sidekick where you can upload your data from Excel, PDFs, Google Analytics, Google Search Console. We've got a handful of integrations, and every day, every week, we're trying to build out more where it doesn't matter where your data is, doesn't matter what your technical or data background is. You just have to know what you want. So you just ask a question and it'll generate insights, charts, advanced data models, spreadsheets, whatever you want.
Very cool. Very cool. David, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for being one of the shining lights in this industry, showing others that, hey, you could be a bootstrapped founder, have a great life, get to 900,000 users, and make your own decisions. So thank you, David.
You got it. Thank you. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
So before we started with the interview, you brought up having your back against the wall and actually having that as a good starting place for you to start your next adventure. I know that my back has been against the wall a couple of times. Sometimes it's worked out, sometimes it hasn't, but it's definitely given me that extra energy to like really get there. One of the times where my back was really against the wall was my first startup, fully custom built, ran out of money, and I needed to learn how to build it myself to keep it alive. And my solution to that was learning how to build with no code bubble. And so the company didn't survive, but I had then learned this skill, which then brought on this whole career. And 4 years later for me, which was a success with my back up against the wall the whole time. So that was a positive outcome for me. How about you, David? Any back up against the wall moments that were like
Yeah.
really defining in your life?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple. When my CTO quit at my first company, and
Yeah, because you were
we
not
had
technical.
customers, I learned Bubble, same kind of story. I on top, just like, hey, I'm gonna go build this.
Same
Definitely
story.
other
Wow.
moments when like burnt out, ready to give up, trying to make a decision. I think it was
Yeah.
not necessarily that having my back against the wall gave me more clarity, but it forced me to spend really good thinking time. And it reduced my degrees of freedom, right? And degrees of freedom being like choices to make, right?
Yeah.
Go, no go, or I
Yeah.
have to do this or this. Like it's not,
Yeah.
well, with in maybe in your situation, if you had some money, but not a lot of money, there are lots of things you could do with some money. But
Mhm.
with no money, there are only a couple things.
Yeah.
Right. And so like you're forced to sit and think, you're forced to make a decision by fewer options. You make a decision that you feel really strongly about and knowing that at that moment, that was the right decision to make. Right. And I think that is really helpful. It's not often that you have the foresight to take a pause and stop and not look at the business as it stands or the bugs or the customers or anything and just like sit and plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David had this moment too, where, as you saw from the interview, just had a baby, had a little bit of free time on his hands. It's debatable, but a little bit of free time on his hands was like, let me make something, and caught the wave at the right time, and it just exploded.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a good feeling that must have been. I know I'm still waiting for that feeling myself. I haven't, built an app that had more than 10,000 users. I've grown some social channels to more, but like never seen a channel or customers grow beyond 100,000. Still searching for that myself. And what I love about his approach is he didn't immediately panic and say, I got to hire all these people. I got to do all this stuff and like really like change everything. He kept with it for 6 months, still at his job, still with a newborn, still just like, all right, I'm going to just keep with it, not overcorrect in any way. And now a couple of years later, he still has a small team, but he has great revenue, great user growth, a low cost, and is really in control of the ship because he didn't overreact in any kind of one moment, which would have been easy to do given his situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to think about. You have to think differently than if you have 10 customers, 10 big business customers, everyone and it's easy to keep track. And at some point, this is kind of where we're starting to get to at our scale. Like we're not even at any kind of scale. My current
At
thing,
your current startup.
I don't know. Like we have a sales guy as well. I don't know everyone. And, we have 400 different law firms we've spoken to. I can't keep track of everyone.
Mhm.
Right? Even at that 400 number, yeah, I can look at some notes. It's easier. But at some number, not much bigger than this, at 1,000,
Mhm.
I'm just going to have no idea who these people are. Like I won't
Sure.
have the same context as if it was 12.
Yeah.
And so we have to treat it like at some level, you have to switch from like, hey, this is me and you, me and my friend, this client, to, hey, you're another person that we need to treat well, but I don't know you very well yet. So it's a
Yeah.
different,
Once you
it's a
just
different way
reach
to
that
build.
level of
And
scale.
at 1,000,000, it's even like everyone's just a number, you handle bug fixes as you can kind of at scale. And so think about like Bubble they've got 5 million users who are super active. Like, we're just,
Not super active, but yeah.
okay, well, they have 5 million users that are
Yeah.
more prosumer, right? Like they have higher expectations that allow it.
Mhm.
It's a different way to run the business.
Yeah. I was waiting for you to kind of bring up your viewpoint of like, you only have so many swings. And if you're going to take a
Oh
swing
yeah,
to
that, yeah,
David
yeah.
to go for it with VC, I thought you were going to present that viewpoint, but like
But he's
I
already
really,
built a business.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think if you're starting out and you don't have a business and you're trying to get to the end and you're like, great, I have one swing left, go, you can try to go build a huge business and do that if you have it in you. But if you already have a successful business, great. Like,
yeah,
take it, take the single, take the double, right? Go get
yeah.
go bank a couple $1,000,000.
There's just so much restraint there because I feel like in my younger days, as soon as I hit like 50 or 100,000, I would immediately be on the phone trying to get money to say like, oh, we got to grow, 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 get this go. Like, got to go. Like in my younger days, I would have been there. And I feel like it's still tempting to some, but like there was so much value that comes with being bootstrapped and not having those like, check-ins and everything. Like the monthly check-in for financials and stuff. It is healthy at a certain point of like
Sure.
knowing those and whatnot, but like there's also a lot of pressures that come with that that can really alter the way you're thinking about your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pros and cons. But
Pros and cons for sure.
thank you for sticking with us for this week in No Code. We're gonna take a 2-week holiday break ourselves. So our next episode is probably gonna be around January 10th, that week of January. So I hope you guys all have a great holiday, safe holiday. Enjoy it. It's gonna be a little bit quieter. If you're like me, don't let that stress you out too much. Enjoy the downtime. Think about
Or
your
start a
goals, your
business like
plans for
David
the new
did.
year. Start a new business, build a new thing. If you just really have to stay business, stay active. But otherwise, keep yourself safe, enjoy your time, and we'll see you in the new year.